What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the show. It is Cinco de Mayo. Happy May 5th, 2021. I'm Mark Bader, joined as always by Kyle Klingman. Kyle, how you doing this Cinco de Mayo?
I am doing great. We missed the show on Monday because we were coming back from a tournament in Coralville, which relates to our guest, but we have two shows this week and pretty stoked about who we have for a guest today, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. How many Coronas did you have this morning?
Coronas?
Or Dos Equis? I don't know. What do you drink on Cinco de Mayo?
Straight tequila.
Oh, God. You're wild.
Tequila.
I love it.
Oh,
okay.
I learned it from you, dude. I mean, you taught me this weekend how to party it up and live it right, and I just kept it going. I can't stop right now, Mark.
I can tell. Yeah, you're slurring. You're all over the place. So get it together, Klingman. We got a guest.
I will.
And let's bring him on. It's Keegan O'Toole. He won the Junior World Team Trials in dominant fashion this weekend, and he's a Missouri Tiger. Keegan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
You bet, man. Thanks for being here. Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. You'd have some tequila this morning, or what were you drinking?
Just a little bit of an energy drink and some water. That's all I had.
Good. No, that's probably the right choice. All right, well, let's get down to it. Obviously, I want to talk wrestling. You can get into cryptocurrencies later if you want, but you grew up in Wisconsin. How old were you when you got involved in wrestling?
About 6 years old. I was kind of your typical crazy kid. Wouldn't really stop doing stuff, pissing my parents off, and then they threw me in, and it's a good thing because it turned out pretty well for me. So,
what I was just pissing my parents off. Can you explain that a little bit more?
A lot of things. I'm pretty sure I set my kitchen table on fire when I was younger.
Wait, let's just start right there. Tell me about that.
I was like probably about 4 years old when that was happening, but I think there was a candle on the table. Being a little pyromaniac that I was at that age, I think I was just throwing stuff in there, maybe like tissues, paper towel, and then next thing I knew, the table was up in flames. So I got a good beating for that one. I got in big trouble for that. But
okay.
And then just other stories of me climbing around the walls. I cracked my head open, climbing up on a trailer that was my dad's hunting trailer. So just your run-of-the-mill little kid. And then threw me in wrestling at about 5 years old. I think the very first practice I came home crying. So maybe my dad said, let's wait a year, and then went back again, and it never turned back.
What was the difference from 5 to 6? Why'd you cry at 5 and at 6 you never looked back?
I got no clue.
You don't know?
I have no clue on that one. No. Maybe the coach scared me. Maybe he was yelling too much and I couldn't handle it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. What was it about? What did you like about it the second time around?
I think I just liked that, I could run into the wall. It wouldn't hurt. I could tackle someone and I wouldn't get in trouble for it because I was a pretty rough little kid. And I was getting yelled at in school for not necessarily getting in fights with kids, but maybe roughhousing a little bit too much. And that was definitely encouraged in the wrestling room. So I think that was definitely a big thing that I enjoyed about it.
How similar or dissimilar is your personality now from when you were a young kid? Because I don't know you extremely well, but every time I've been around you, you seem really nice, mild-mannered, calm, cool, and collected. But you're describing this Tasmanian devil of a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old.
Oh yeah, I was definitely quite difficult as a young child. I don't think that I started to have that calmness or just composure until probably freshman, sophomore year of high school. I think I was always pretty crazy, getting in trouble. I get really bored really easily, so I think that contributed to a lot of it. I always had to be doing something, so definitely matured a lot throughout high school, and then obviously once I got to college, still kind of that same calm person. So
yeah,
when I was younger, definitely a little bit rough.
What was, I don't know, the wildest thing you did or the most trouble you got in? But can you think of one of the more wild or crazy things you did, or one of the times that you got in a lot of trouble?
Whew, that was definitely a big one. setting the kitchen table on fire, but I also remember I just somehow I found like a magic permanent black marker, and I think I drew all over the walls with it when I was younger, and just the floor, the new carpeting, just everything, and that was a bad one. That was bad. That's one that I can definitely remember getting in trouble for. So
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one older brother.
Was he crazy? Are you guys close in age? Were you rambunctious together? Is he more calm or?
He's about 4 years older than me, and he was definitely a lot different than me. Um, he was probably a lot more calm, probably easier as a younger kid. But yeah, I definitely was. I think he was like maybe a little bit more when he was really young. I think my parents told me that he was like the crier of the family, or like between me and him. But he was also he didn't get as much trouble as I did, as where I probably didn't cry as much, but I definitely did a lot of stupid stuff. So
Fair enough. Do you think that obviously just life and getting older and maturing helps people maybe grow out of those stages? How much of it was just that, and how much maybe did wrestling play a role in that?
wrestling definitely played a role, because I remember I was pretty emotional when I was younger. Anytime I'd lose a match, it wasn't good for me. I was in tears, but I definitely didn't learn emotional maturity until I probably started going to Askren. They're so good, like mental training. I think that definitely helped me grow out of that. And I remember having just sitting down talks with Max, Ben, and Coach Messenbrink, when I was struggling mentally. And I think that definitely helped me grow out of that stage. So wrestling played a huge part of it.
So if I think you said it at 5, you tried it and cried. And you came back at 6 and stuck with it. How long till then you went and joined Aspen Wrestling Academy?
Well, when I first started, Askren wasn't open yet. So they opened in about 2011. And I think I started wrestling in maybe 2007, 2008. So I think a year after, maybe like 8 to 10 months after they opened, I joined there, because I was driving all the way down to Illinois to wrestle, and that was getting pretty hard on my parents. But eventually, we only lived about 35 minutes away when we lived in the city of Milwaukee, but then we moved actually out to Heartland, so that made things a lot easier. So probably about 2012, I joined there.
Okay. What did you know about Ben and Max? And obviously, Coach Messenbrink was probably a little bit more obscure to a young wrestler. But when did you maybe learn who Ben and Max were, and was it not until they started AWA?
I definitely knew who Max was a little bit more, just because he was still in college when I started to follow wrestling a lot more. I was a huge Iowa fan back in the day. And so in about I remember 2010 NCAA's watching them. They had like 5 finalists. They had like Brent Metcalf, Jay Borschel, Matt McDonough, all those guys. And then I remember watching Max's 184-pound match. So I definitely knew of Max a little bit more before I went to AWA, just because of age. Ben was right as I was getting into wrestling, maybe a little bit before. But once I went to AWA, probably a year before, I was doing my research. I like to watch a lot of wrestling, so I definitely knew who Ben was before I went there. But initially, I only really knew too much about Max.
What was the reasoning switching clubs? Was it mostly because of the long drive, or was it like they got this unique style, or was it, I don't know, what was it?
I definitely think travel. Driving an hour and 35 minutes a couple times a week was definitely hard on my parents, and also for my dad's job. He was a fireman for the city of Milwaukee, and he never really liked living there. And then they made a rule where if you're a fireman for the city of Milwaukee, you can move 15 miles outside the city anyway. And that was an area that they really liked. So my parents looked into there, and then obviously had a great wrestling program. So I was probably going there maybe a year or two before we moved out to Heartland. But yeah, that was definitely a big part of it, was just the travel. And obviously we knew it was going to be a great club.
like right out the gate, first practice, first week, first month, first kind of experiences. What was different about AWA than where you had wrestled before?
A lot slower pace. I remember the very first day that I came in, I was definitely a little bit nervous just because Ben Askren, Coach Messenbrink, Max were all big names, and I was just a little kid. I remember the first practice I went, Ben looked at me. He's like, "So you're going to be coming wrestling with us for a while?" And I was like, "Yep." And then we started to warm up, and it was like this elaborate, tumbling, stance in motion. It was so much slower and more just technique focused that I think I enjoyed it a lot more. Because where I wrestled before, it was, I'm like 10 years old and we're running sprints, we're wrestling a ton of live. And obviously, like, I enjoyed that, but it also was really nice to just take it a little bit slower and understand the sport of wrestling more. Because learning is definitely something that I really enjoyed. If I'm learning things, then I'm going to be a lot more focused.
Sure. What's the learning like? Is it all slow paced, and how much of it is this is how you do it, and how much of it is like a little bit more freedom?
Yeah, it was a lot more freedom. Ben is definitely big on the, you kind of got to figure it out on your own, because that's how he was in college and high school. He kind of had to figure out his own style, but obviously, like, he has so much knowledge to offer. But I think for a majority of it, it is a lot slower. It's a lot more learning. And then obviously, if we have like big tournaments coming up, we know it's a little bit more higher pace, a little bit more sparring, live wrestling. But the freedom and individual work that they give us is just, it was nothing like I ever seen before. So that's, I think, why I loved it so much.
You've obviously excelled to a very high level where you are now. And it's probably hard to compare because before that was probably like, I'm guessing 6 to 10 years old or something before you were wrestling with them. But what kind of success and results did you have prior to moving over to AWA?
Um, like I didn't wrestle in too many like really, really big tournaments when I was young. I kind of just went to a lot of like, weekend, Sunday, Saturday tournaments at local high schools. But I was, I think I won Kid State my very first time. Um, and then we went to actually Tulsa Nationals a couple times out in Oklahoma, and I took second place a couple times there. Could never get the job done, but yeah, I think that was probably my main successes were just Tulsa Nationals and then our own Wisconsin Kid State tournament.
Sure. And I guess let's talk about, you mentioned something earlier, like mental training, becoming more mature, leaving this bratty Tasmanian devil, whatever you want to call it, kind of behind. How did that, I don't know, transition, whatever you want to call it, take place, and how much of it were you guys talking about? Being mature, developing mentally, and was it mostly geared towards wrestling and stuff you could apply on your own, or was it directly not just wrestling?
Um, at first, I thought it was I just had like I couldn't handle losing, and I was getting way too emotional with just wrestling. But to talk to Ben about it, talk to Coach Messenbrink, and they would sit me down sometimes after big matches where I was completely winning, and then I would just blow it. It also kind of made me realize that if you excel and are mentally mature in life, it's going to translate over. And I specifically remember this one time. This was probably one of my biggest breakthroughs, and I'm sure Ben could tell you this was my sophomore year. I wrestled at the UWW Cadets, and I wrestled 60 kilos, and I made the semifinals, and then lost a very close match, and then lost again. Almost did the semi slide, but he just sat me down after, and he's like, you're like afraid to be great, and you just kind of give up when things get hard. And I think that kind of hit me really hard, and because I always thought it was just I'm not good enough at wrestling. But that wasn't the case because I had all the skills. Um, I had all the coaches, the training partners. So it had to do with something up in my head. And after that, I just kind of went on a tear. I went undefeated at junior duels. The coming weeks, I won Fargo that year, and I bumped up a weight class like a couple days before. And that's kind of where I noticed my biggest gains. So it definitely, that was probably one of my biggest breakthroughs when it came to developing, which like mentally.
When he tells you you're afraid to be great, what do you think? And does it sink in on the spot at the tournament? Is it not till the next day or the next week at home or at practice? Or I don't know, because you said it, it was a pivotal point, maybe even a turning point. I'm curious, between what he says and how and when you process it, what that kind of looks like.
At first, when you said it, I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Like, afraid to be great. Like, I obviously want to be great. Um, but then I just thought about it, and I was thinking, obviously, I want to be great, but I also want it to come easy. So anytime that I'm in a tough match, if it's not easy, then that's where I'll, put my head down and give up a couple scores and just lose a close match. So I think that's what he was telling me, and not embracing, you know, in really, really hard, tough moments in a wrestling match or in practice. So once I figured out what he was talking about, then I tried to change that as much as I could and just push myself to get to that point, and then just not let that voice in my head saying, "Oh, like you're tired or this is too hard," and just say, "Shut up," and just keep going. And I think that was definitely the biggest thing that I learned from that conversation with him.
How hard or easy was that to do? What you just described and overcome it.
I don't think it was that difficult, which is the weird thing. I struggled with this from the moment I got to AWA until that point. So that was like a 6-year span. And then once I finally figured that out, it was like I just thought about it for maybe a week or two. And then, it just kind of like it became a part of me. And it was something that I never had to think about again, which is strange that it just clicked like that.
That's freaking wild. Um, and I guess maybe piggybacking off that, not maybe not, but because you said I thought about that for a week or two. How much do you think about wrestling outside of the wrestling room? And more specifically, what are you thinking about? Is it moves and techniques? Is it opponents? Is it like mentality, I guess, which is kind of what we're talking about here?
If like after this weekend, you would think like I need a little bit of a break, and I did physically. Like I said, I haven't been wrestling too much, but mentally, I was immediately watching my matches right away. I think I probably watched each match like 4 or 5 times already. Sitting down with Coach Maple, watching film, seeing what I can do better. But yeah, no, when I'm off the mat, it's if I'm not thinking about wrestling, I must be doing something that's quite fun, because usually that's always going through my mind, whether that's just what we're going to be doing at practice, what the next event's coming up, who my next possible opponents are going to be, and things that I need to just make sure that I do to fix like holes in my wrestling. So it could be anything related to technique, to events, to matches that I've wrestled, or possible opponents, just anything.
Is it typically short term? And I mean short term in the sense of trying to be an NCAA champion or trying to be a junior world champion? Or are you thinking, obviously not this year, but are you thinking worlds and Olympics and all that like regularly?
Definitely have those long-term goals in the back of my mind on a daily basis, but I think definitely more short-term goals, where during the NCAA season, I was like, all right, like this is what you want to do. Here's how you're going to do it. I want to win a national title. Or this weekend, like I'm going to first step into being a junior world champ right here. Like take each match, one match at a time. And then now after the tournament, obviously I want to be a junior world champ, and there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing that.
How's your relationship with Ben, I don't know, changed and evolved? Because I know he's more than just your coach. We played disc golf out of his house, and I'm sure you live in Missouri now, but before you were living in Wisconsin, and it's not just going to practice and leaving, and that's that. What was your relationship like with him, and how did it evolve into probably more than just a coach?
Yeah, it definitely developed more into like a father figure type relationship, because obviously when I'm in the wrestling room and talking wrestling with him, that's he's coach. Like that's all we talk about. But like I said, when it comes to anything else, he offers such great advice. I could be having troubles with anything, school, maybe homesickness from my first year at college, and I can go to him, and I know he's always going to be there for me, which is amazing. So I definitely think it's developed more than just a wrestling coach, and I know that it's someone that I could go to for the rest of my life. And also, I think that helps a lot with me trusting him to put me through, whether that's training camps, because I'll be going home for the summer a little bit, and I know I'll be training with him, and it just builds that trust more. So, because I was working on his disc golf course at his house, helping him build it, and then maybe we'll have a group of AWA guys. We're going out and playing on a weekend with him, hanging out with his kids, hanging out with really all the coaches together. So it's definitely more than just a wrestling coach and more of a father figure type.
Who's better at disc golf?
Oh, right now probably him, but it doesn't count. He has his own dang course on his property. So once I start playing a little bit more this summer, I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna beat him on his own turf, and then I'll have bragging rights.
Awesome. I love it. Kyle, did you have a question?
About Ben Askren, there's a public perception of Ben and then the one that you described. How close is the public perception of Ben and what you see on a daily basis?
I mean, it's pretty much the same. He's a very transparent person, which is why I appreciate having him so much, is that I know what I'm going to get. Leading up to his stupid little boxing match that he did, I kind of knew everything that he was going to say or just do. His mentality is always the same. So it's not really, it's not different from public to private. He's a very outgoing, very confident person that knows what he wants, and he's just going to tell you straight to your face.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Mizzou, obviously he went there, and I'm sure there was an influence with that, but why did you ultimately pick Mizzou, and where else did you consider going?
Yeah, like you said, Ben and Max had a huge influence on that. I was watching them wrestle. Like I said, once I got to AWA, I did a lot of research, started watching a lot of wrestling. And I don't know, I just loved how Coach Smith was with his athletes. And from what Ben told me and Max told me, it just seemed like a great place and how I could not want to go there. There's a lot of college coaches out there that I feel like now that are maybe not as transparent, or they don't value their athlete as a person more than they do in the wrestling room. And I feel like with Coach Smith, it's okay, we're going to be a great person first, and then we're going to be good at wrestling. And that's what Tiger Style is, doing the right things off the mat more than on the mat. So I think that was a huge reason why I wanted to go to Mizzou. And then obviously, with right as my recruiting process started, the Wisconsin coaches changed. So that was a big one too. Especially with Ben being involved with the RTC program for a little bit. That was somewhere that I was looking. And it was a very tough decision, but ultimately I knew what I wanted in my heart.
I know he's a lot more mild-mannered now than when I was in school, but have you seen Brian Smith just lose it? Come unglued.
Only about one time I've seen him get pretty mad, and it was terrifying. and he wasn't even mad at me either. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, is that it was like more of like a team thing, and I didn't even think the situation applied to me that much. But I'm like, dang, I need to do everything right at practice. I need to not say a single word, drill really hard, wrestle as hard as I can. But it was scary, and that's like he's definitely, since that one time, I don't think I've seen him get really mad. It was something I never want to see again.
Agreed. I've seen it happen a few times, and you just grab your seat and hold on and hope for the best.
You probably got a lot worse.
Yeah. Back in the day, he would get upset. Not all the time, but more than once a year, and it was terrifying. Mm-hmm. It was terrifying. So let's talk about this year. You came in And you actually, I believe you wrestled off a couple times and lost, and had to wrestle up to 65. Is that right?
Yeah. We had obviously a bunch of practice matches, and me and our 57 Jarrett were going back and forth, and then eventually it came down to it. Coach was like, "All right, well, we got to have one final wrestle off," and it was right after the NDSU SDSU Oregon State quad, and it didn't go my way, and it sucked, but it was meant for me. I was good that that happened to me because I was sucking a lot of weight going down to 57, and I'm never one that's going to do good when I'm having to hold my weight down and worry about that. So, hopped in the lineup at 65. That first week, I weighed in super light. I couldn't get my weight up above 164 pounds. So, I think we dueled Central Michigan and Wyoming that first time at 165, and I felt great, and I knew this was for me.
Um, it was a weird season, right? It started in January, went through March. Would you have liked it to be longer? Were you comfortable with how long it was?
I don't really know because I can't judge too much because I've only had that short season.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe if I had one other season under my belt where we did start in late October, early November, then I could give you a little bit better answer. But I didn't mind it. We were wrestling almost every week, which I liked because I like to compete a lot. Um, I would have really liked to been able to go to a couple tournaments though. Maybe CKLV, Scuffle. If I was redshirting, I would have tried to do all of those, like Midlands and stuff like that. But only having duels was not most ideal situation. I felt for me personally because I wanted to wrestle a lot more matches. But overall, I enjoyed the season. I had such a fun time.
How'd you feel about the season? How'd you feel about the season, the way you performed, and how it went?
Um, Obviously, I did not achieve what I wanted to at the end of the year. So there's always going to be that where that's disappointment or a little bit of a failure in me. But I think overall, I transitioned really good from high school to college. Um, I wasn't probably even going to plan on wrestling, but then they came out with the free year. I was going to try to do a redshirt year, um, but I thought that I embodied what I've always told myself when it comes to wrestling, and that is I'm going to shoot a lot. I'm going to score a lot of points. I'm not going to try to win like a 3-2 match. I'm going to try to make it 10-6 or 15-8 or just something like that. So I was very happy with myself there. And the matches where they were close and I knew I could have opened up a little more, I definitely was a little bit disappointed in myself. But I think I did a great job of showing myself and showing Mizzou fans or our coaches that I'm here to put up points in a lot of them.
You mentioned matches where maybe it was close and you think you could have opened up more. Why do you think you didn't?
I definitely think a little bit of nerves had to do with it. It's my first time in the NCAA and wrestling any really really good guy. Maybe a little bit nervous, but also I didn't realize how. This has nothing to do against any college wrestler, but how many college wrestlers are okay with winning by 1 point, and I hate that. I hate how they just want to stall, maybe take one shot, and then win 3-2 or 2-1. Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think I had to realize that not every match I'm going to be able to put up 10 points, and I'm going to have to deal with that sometimes.
Interesting. Where does that mentality come from?
Um, definitely, definitely wrestling around with Coach Maple, Ben, Max, Coach Todd. We're always embracing, shooters shoot, scared money don't make money. So definitely have to give credit to those guys for that. Because in the wrestling room, I will exhaust myself taking 1,000 shots and trying to cradle left and right. So that's where I definitely get that. I want to score a ton of points, energy.
You brought up Coach Maple, Kendrick Maple. I've heard rumors that he beats like everybody in the room up to like light heavyweights, and he's just lights out. How accurate is that?
It's 100% accurate. Yeah, it's brutal. The days where I'm going with him and we're doing a lot of live, they're so miserable.
Really?
I don't know how he does it. There's actually like probably a week and a half ago, we were doing some live, and it was a group of 3 with me, Coach Maple, and Brock Muller. And first of all, I can barely ever get to his legs, so that's just. And then I finally get to a shot, and I get to like a lefty high crotch, and he set the corner on me. I started to shelf, and I kind of heard a pop in his knee. So I stopped, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Like, hopefully, I didn't hurt him. And like, he had a little bit of knee pain, and he wouldn't say this, but it probably really hurt to even like get in his stance. And he continued to wrestle. I didn't get a single takedown on him, even after like I messed up his knee a little bit. Took me down every single time. It's brutal.
Wow.
He can't weigh as much as you, right?
No, he's like maybe 150 pounds heaviest, and I was weighing like 175 pounds.
He's a freak.
He is.
Complete freak.
Unreal grip strength.
All right.
He's just, I don't know why he's not competing. I always tell him every day. Actually, last night I was hanging out at his house, and I was like, why don't you just man up for one more year, get in shape, and win a world title? And he's like, how am I supposed to coach you then? So he's no one likes wrestling live with him in the room. It's terrible.
Well, I raised my hand for give it one more go, Kendrick. If he's that good, man. I'd love to see him. I think it was 2017. He wrestled in the World Team Trial Finals, and I think he got out to like a 6-0 lead on Logan Stieber. Obviously, Logan's the returning world champ, came back and won, I think, 2 straight matches. Maybe Kendrick won 1, but
yeah,
he is that good. Okay, freestyle. You just came back from the junior world team. You know, freestyle versus folk style. Where do you lie on maybe how much you like one or the other and why?
way more of a freestyle fan. Love it. 1, because the world does it, and 2, because I think it's just you have to apply a lot more strategy to freestyle than you do with folk style. Because you have the edge rules, can't expose your back, obviously. I just feel like it requires you to be a little bit more fine-tuned in wrestling to be really good at freestyle than it does at folk style. I think that's why I love it so much more.
You ever have that debate with Ben? Because I know he's a big advocate for folk style, and I've swung the other way, and I like freestyle more now. So I've had some of those conversations, but you guys ever get in that argument?
Not really with Ben. It's more with Coach Smith, actually, because he obviously he loves any type of wrestling, but if he had to choose, I feel like he would choose folk style. But yeah, I kind of sometimes wish that college wrestling was freestyle, and he's like, what are you talking about? Like all the challenges and everything. It's like so frustrating sometimes. But yeah, I think it's more with Coach Smith that I butt heads with the whole freestyle folk style debate. Well, and he'll tell you he loves freestyle, but if he had to pick, he would be folk style.
Well, to the point of, oh my God, it'd be a nightmare, the challenges, this and that. But back to what you said, a lot of people will wrestle these 1 takedown, 1 point matches, or it's 1-1 and we're going to go to overtime and nobody's going to shoot because I don't want to take a risk or just let it go to overtime. And I know I'm getting in a freestyle folk style debate, but hey, if somebody's always losing, somebody's always trying to score. And obviously I'm not debating with you because you're on the same side. So thoughts about this past weekend? Not obviously winning's fun and it feels great, but how do you feel like your performance aside from the wins? How did you perform?
I think I performed extremely well. Obviously, watching my matches, there were things that I could have done better, but from the national tournament to junior trials, there were like certain areas that I struggled with, and I think I'm really good. Like at nationals, I couldn't finish a head outside shot for like my life. Like I just would get stuffed, even on like a completely good high crotch, hips are in position. I would be getting stuffed and having to just suck up a shot from my belly with my hands locked. And I think that was something that I fixed really well this weekend. So I was really happy with the way I performed. And our team, we almost had half the team that's Tiger style wrestlers. So that was amazing to be a part of that as well.
How often do you make adjustments that quickly? Like the one you specifically pointed to, I couldn't finish head outside shots in March, and here we are. That was third week of March, and now we're at the end of April, beginning of May, and you fixed that. How often? And you said you probably watched each match 4 times, so I'm guessing you're watching a lot of film. How often does that translate into like fixing a problem that quickly?
Definitely just putting an emphasis on it anytime we have free time. Whether it was because our practices are now a little bit more open-ended. Coach Smith gives us a little bit more free time to spar, drill, do whatever we want. Maybe just hop on a cardio machine or do a little bit of rehab if we're hurting. But I specifically remember every time I ever had an end of it like a free time drill, it was I'm gonna shoot a high crotch and you try to set the corner on me. I'm gonna just finish this. That's all I'm gonna do the entire time, nothing else. And then even in my individuals leading up to the trials with Coach Maple and with whatever partner I had, whether that was Jarrett J. Hughes or Sean Harmon or any of the guys that we have, I'm like, all right, like we gotta drill what you want me to do, but I also have to do this like a certain amount of times, and I need you to watch me. So that was why I think I made that adjustment so quick, was because I was doing it every day in the practice room, no matter what.
Sure. You brought up the team, right? Tiger Style, you put 3 on the junior world team. Why do you think that is? Is it just by chance you had 3 guys that performed really well on that day, or is there something more to the formula of what you guys were doing that led to that success?
I mean, we just have such an amazing class of 2020, I think. It was like I think you guys put us at like the number 2 or number 3 recruiting class. Definitely could argue that it should have been the number 1, but we have such great feels in the room, and we have such different styles from a guy like Josh Edmond, who's faster and more explosive than anyone, and then you have a guy like Brock Mahler, who's just strong, just cannot move for the life of you. So we have that, but also we have amazing coaches like we had Jane Cox coming a couple times before the trials, and that was helping us with our leg laces. So we just have such a great atmosphere in our wrestling room. And on top of that, we all want to win. Like, we all have that competitiveness where if we wrestle live in the room and we're doing we used to do these 4-point matches leading up. So it would just be like a 4 points attack. We're going to use the full circle. And I remember there were arguments, there were battles, and there were almost fights broken out because we're so damn competitive. But that's like a good thing. Yeah. So I think that's why we perform so well.
How aware are you of what Coach Smith's built in that program since day one, and maybe how bad we were at the end of the century and the beginning of the 2000s?
It's quite crazy what he's done, and not even just wrestling wise, just the type of program and the type of word that's got out about Mizzou wrestling. I remember one of the guys on our team was a senior, actually, Wyatt Coling. He was looking for a job, and Coach Smith was talking to one of his buddies, and he's like, "Yeah, I need this. I need a new worker for me here." And Coach Smith's like, "I got the perfect guy for you." And now he's just moving on with his life. He's moving out of Columbia on such short notice, but I think he just creates such a positive atmosphere, and so everyone around the Columbia, wrestling world knows that a Mizzou wrestler is not only going to be a hard worker, but they're just going to be a good person. They're going to do the right thing, and I think he's just built that into generations of Mizzou wrestlers, that Tiger style is a lifestyle, and he's made it so important to us. And just that's kind of like our unwritten rules. Like, one, you can't take the elevator while walking up to practice. I'm sure you remember that.
Oh yeah.
You have to take the stairs. Have to run around the edge of the circle while you're warming up, or you get yelled at. Yeah. And then just living Tiger style. And I think that's just built a culture at Mizzou, across all sports at Mizzou, that people know that Mizzou wrestlers are one-of-a-kind athletes.
M-I-Z.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to say Z-O-U, Keegan.
Oh, sorry. Z-O-U.
Let's try that again. M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
There you go. All right. Hey, but Junior Worlds, right? That's I think August, if I'm not mistaken, out in Russia. How aware are you of the landscape of or unaware? All right, it could be totally of the top junior wrestlers in the world at your weight class.
Couldn't tell you anything.
Yeah,
um, I mean, if I'm looking at senior level, obviously I would know, but the amount of information that we got and the amount of information that I know is what maybe a spectator would know.
sure.
Coach KJ's like, we got a great team. We're going to meet for a training camp in June. Just make sure I have your phone number. And that was really all that was said. So I know really nothing, but that's not really something that I feel like I should have to worry about is logistics of it. I just need to worry about winning a world title. And I'm sure my coaches, maybe Coach Maple, Coach Todd, or Coach Smith will be doing a little bit of scouting of overseas opponents, but that's not too much of a focus for me right now, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it will be once we get closer to competition.
Sure. Have you watched Junior Worlds, whether it's paying attention to the Americans in the past or just watched their tournament?
Oh yeah, definitely. I always try to watch our people that are representing America, and obviously, these are possible future opponents for me. So I always try to tune in because I love any type of wrestling.
And I guess that's leads into my next question. You talked about, hey, after you just wrestled at junior trials, you probably watched each match a handful of times. How much wrestling do you watch aside from your own? And is it for entertainment or is it for like educational, if you will, purposes?
Definitely both. When I'm watching myself, it's definitely more I want to see what I'm doing and learn how to get better because I definitely am a huge critic of myself, probably the biggest of anyone that's ever coached me or anything like that. But obviously, if I'm watching, maybe like the Olympic trials or something like that, that's more for entertainment.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm always like thinking like, oh, like that's something that Kyle Dake does really well, or that's something that Yanni does really well.
Yeah. Outside of wrestling, what are your biggest interests?
I've been recently getting into skateboarding. So we got a couple guys on the team that do it. Coach Maple's not too happy. He thinks I'm going to hurt myself. But I love playing disc golf. We got some of the Mizzou. I got some of the coaches here to do it with me, and obviously some of the athletes. And then on my own, I'm a huge Wisconsin guy at heart. So I really enjoy, going to Culver's. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Burger place?
One of the great. Yeah, probably one of the greatest restaurants of all time.
They got good butter burgers.
So we go there way too much. So that's something those are probably the things that we do the most is skateboard, disc golf, outside of wrestling, and then go to Culver's. So because I live in my house, I live with 3 other guys that are from Wisconsin. Uh-huh. So everyone knows, 7, 8 p.m. All right, we're making a run. Everyone hops in the car. We go as a Wisconsin family. We go over there.
Do they have cheese curds?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, Culver's is good, but anyways. Skateboarding, though, how did you get into skateboarding? And did you know Brett Metcalf was a big skateboarder?
I didn't know that until I obviously saw your guys' like clips that you put up of him. Yeah. But we got actually one of my buddies here, Jacob Broshka. He likes to skateboard. And it was like something like, COVID times, you have a little bit more free time. So I hate just sitting in the house watching TV. So it's something that I can get into, Obviously, you have to buy a board, but other than that, it's pretty cheap. All you do is just go around campus and just shred. So
how good are you?
And I think I've gotten – I was rough at start, but I think I've made quite a bit of improvements. I only started probably like 2 weeks before the trials, and obviously the week of, I was kind of discouraged not to do it by Coach Maple. So I couldn't really do it that much then, but I'm getting better. We got like 3 or 4 guys on the team that like to do it. So we have a really nice skate park too in Columbia. So it's a good time.
Have you taken any nasty spills yet?
No, because I don't try stuff that I know that I can't do.
All right.
But
good.
I'm sure that I will in the future. Hopefully I don't hurt myself.
Yeah. Be be careful, because we would hate to see that.
I will.
Yes.
I will.
Yeah, don't. Anyways. Cool. All right. We're kind of winding down. We got a couple more, I guess, segments, if you will. We want to get to. First one is called wins and whoopings. So if you're gonna look back over the span of your career from the first match you wrestled at 5 or 6 years old till your most recent finals and the trials, is there one win and one loss? One win that sticks out as memorable for whatever reason, it was your favorite, or it was the best guy you beat, or it was the biggest win at the time, or it was a comeback, or whatever. For whatever reason, it's like, man, this win means a lot, or meant a lot, or it stands out, it's memorable. And is there one whooping that was the opposite, that you just got your butt beat so bad you didn't know what happened, or maybe you did and it was just somebody who's so great but they just beat the crap out of you and it totally sucked? Looking for one win, one loss, and you can either one, answer either one first.
One win that I think stood out to me a lot was definitely at the Junior World Team Trials in 2019, when it was in North Carolina, and it was I wrestled 65 kilos and wrestling in the semifinals against really, really tough wrestler Andrew Alirez. I was down 4-1 going into the second period, and I think I scored like 10 straight points and ended up winning the match and pulling off the upset. And I was pretty pumped after that. Like, that was one win that I can say that I don't want to say that I didn't think I was going to win, but there was part of me that was like, this kid's really good, and I'm going to have to put it together if I'm going to win this match.
Can't be afraid to be great to win that match.
It can't. And I wasn't. And then a whooping was that same, set of tournaments, was either the quarterfinal loss to NCAA's hurt really bad, but it was not just one, but it was 3 times I lost to Yaya Thomas. I lost to him at the Open, and I lost to him twice in the final. I couldn't get a single point in that best 2 or 3 series. His defense was just too darn good. It was so frustrating.
All right. And one last segment, Kyle's going to jump in here. We call this Sweating It Out. So you're going to be on the hot seat. Kyle's got a list of some random questions. And Kyle, whenever you're ready, man, go for it.
I'm ready, and it only makes sense that this edition of Sweat It Out involves all Missouri questions, because we have Brian Smith's athlete from his very first team to his most recent. So, Keegan O'Toole, are you ready to sweat it out?
Hopefully that's a yes.
Yes or no? Okay.
Oh, he's frozen. Oh, dang it.
You cut out. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, here we go. Cool.
Oh, yeah. I just asked if you're ready to sweat it out.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Number 1, and I'm going to be impressed if you get any of these questions. These are really tough. Number 1, Ben Askren was a 2-time NCAA champion, as you know. Who did he defeat in the finals in each of his NCAA championships?
Oh, that's not hard. It was Keith Gavin in 2007 and Jake Herbert in 2006. And the first score was 14-2 against Jake Herbert, and then it was 7-3 against Keith Gavin.
Wow. All right.
I thought it was 8-2.
That wasn't hard, I guess.
I've been 7.
Was it 8-2?
I don't know. This isn't me.
Okay.
You guys go ahead.
All right. Number 2. What college did Missouri head coach Brian Smith attend?
Michigan State. I think he graduated in 1990.
It was Michigan State.
That's what I said.
Yeah, what did he say?
Oh, they said Kent State.
Michigan.
I'm sorry, it cut out.
No,
Okay.
I said Michigan State.
Don't blame it on the lag, Kyle.
All right. I know. I won't blame it there. All right. And then, hey, a bonus here. What future world champion did Smith face in the finals of the 1990 Big Ten Championships?
I don't know that one. Little
You
bit
know,
out of my
Mark?
era. I do not know.
Was it Terry?
Yep. Terry Brands.
Oh.
But that was a bonus, so you're good right now. So you're 2 for 2. Number 3, Brian Smith is known for hosting duels in unique locations. Where would you like to host a duel?
A home duel in Columbia. I think one out on the football field would be really cool. but also I would really like to do one that is in the middle of town, maybe like kind of like a beat the streets type vibe, maybe like on Beta. You might know this on East Broadway Avenue that goes right around town in the middle.
Absolutely.
Maybe right around there would be pretty cool. Just put a mat, put it up on a stage. That would be sweet.
I like it.
I do too. You're 3 for 3. Number 4, Brian Smith famously recruited NCAA heavyweight champion Mark Ellis from what sport?
Football?
Yep.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
He's a big guy. 4 for 4. What former Missouri wrestler started his career at Missouri, became a 2-time NCAA champion, and then for Clemson, and then became an Olympic silver medalist, world champion, and Olympic bronze medalist?
Is it Jaden Cox?
No. Does
I was
Mark
gonna
know
say, I thought
this?
he's a 3
The
time.
bull.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sammy
Sammy Henson. Ah, dang.
Oh, you got
Yep.
it wrong.
And then I got a bonus here. What famous Missouri wrestler produced such great flow documentaries like Terry and Metcalf?
None other than Mark Bader.
Yep.
I got
got
a bonus. I got a bonus. What school did Brian Smith coach at before Mizzou?
Cornell.
Immediately before Mizzou.
Is it not Cornell?
He actually coached somewhere else for a year, up in that same region of the country. And then they dropped their program.
I don't know.
I'm sure Kyle knows.
What is it?
Syracuse?
Syracuse.
Oh, yes. I remember him talking about that. Son of a.
Yeah, it happens. Okay. You can't win them all, Keegan.
Mm-hmm.
Can't win them all. Is that it? Is that it, Kyle?
That's it. Nice work.
All right, you done sweating it out. Although the one, Kyle, there was no wrong answer. That was kind of funky, right? You're like, where would you host a duel? Like,
Yeah,
how is
I can't get that one wrong.
What if you were like, wrong? It should have been the center of campus, down at the quad.
Since you were involved in it, I was going to let you have some latitude. If he would have said like out in a cornfield, it's like, that's not feasible. We can't do that. We'll give a thumbs down to that.
East Broadway.
Although it'd be cool to do.
Yeah. Awesome.
Also, actually, Bader, I have a question for you.
Oh boy.
There's 2 teams here. Who are the 2 returning Big 12 team champions coming into the 2021-2022 season?
At Missouri?
Returning champs. No, just team-wise.
Wait, in wrestling?
Yeah.
Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Nope. Well, I guess there's 3 because they tied for a title.
Yeah. Who's
But
returning?
Missouri left the
returning.
Big 12 in 2012, and now we're back in the Big 12, and technically we're returning champs.
Not defending, but returning.
Mm-hmm.
I dig it. You pumped to be in the Big 12?
So excited.
Did you know that was coming, or was it like a caught off guard, or did rumors kind of get out?
It was a little bit rumors, but I did not think it was going to be this year. I thought it would maybe be for 2022 season.
All right.
So, or wait, yeah, the following year after this one upcoming.
That'd be a 20.
Yeah, but I'm excited just because it's a new opportunity, and a lot of the guys that I wrestled that were some of my toughest matches this year were at the Big 12. NDSU, Oklahoma State. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Keegan, I think we've exhausted most of the things we wanted to get into today. Appreciate you coming on and chatting with us for sure. I'll give you the final word. Anything you might want to say, piece of inspiration, a joke, just nothing. I don't know. An anecdote? You have the floor.
I can't tell you guys that. But no, I'm just pumped to win a junior world title, and you're going to see Mizzou on top of the podium in the coming years at the NCAA tournament. So that's it. MIZ.
ZOU. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. You have a great day, Keegan.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep. See ya. All right, Kyle. I thought that was a great show, and I was a little caught off guard at the beginning. He sounds like he was a little shit when he was younger. You know, mischievous son of a buck, and set the kitchen table on fire and took the mark Sharpie at everything else. So, interesting to see the evolution of Keegan O'Toole.
Yeah, you would have never gotten that out of that interview that he was less than spectacular. So it was fun to hear about his upbringing.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's going to do it for today's show. The last chance qualifier, Jordan Oliver's draw came out. We got a couple other guys wrestling. That's going down, I believe, tonight, live here on FloWrestling. This weekend, we have women's nationals up in the Dallas area. Myself and David Bray will be out there, a bunch of age divisions. So plenty of great wrestling coming up. And as always, we'll be back next week with another show and another slate of guests. So for Kyle Klingman, I'm Mark Bader. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Yep, 4. And see ya.